Hello everybody, Dell here today, doing a video today on a Dell Dimension 4300S, low-end computer for the time. We'll be talking about that in this video. Before I actually start the video, I want to apologize for any mess you may see in the video. I have many a projects and not many a time. So, yeah, cleaning is kind of inhibited. So, anyways, this is a Dell computer released in the early to mid 2000s. Features a Pentium 4 1.6 GHz. As you can see, it's a small form factor computer. 256 megs built-in RAM, which is very small for the time. And a 40 gigabyte, I think it's 20 or 40 gig IDE hard drive. This computer features as well a CD-ROM only drive, a floppy drive, which would have been incredibly typical, the usual outfit of Dell power button and an LED, and the flip-up thing with two USB ports in there, plus your headphone out, and no microphone in. Getting right into the insides of this case. The insides of this case, as you can see, pay tribute to many of the small form factor Optiplex computers I've shown in my videos. This is, at least to me, it looks simply to be a lower end Optiplex machine. Nearly. It features blower style fan, as does the Optiplex GX series. Single stick of SD RAM, 256 megabytes, and an ATI Rage 128 Ultra, which by the point of this computer's release would have been pretty outdated, though usable. The inbuilt frame buffer in this computer is a lot worse. The only PCI expansion in the PCI expansion bracket with the riser installed is the 56K modem, which would have been this user's probable only source of internet at the time, if they had internet at all. This computer as well features an 80-watt power supply. That's right, 80 only. So, for a computer that was released, I don't know, we'll say about 2003, 2004, seems typical. For that kind of computer, this would have been a well outdated system, though for the time very expensive. So for the budget-oriented consumer, it would have been a okay choice, I suppose. Having a single-core Pentium 4 at 1.6 gigahertz with no hyper-threading to speak of, the performance, especially as time wore on into the later 2000s, would have been absolutely atrocious. This is not helped at all by the fact that on the back it only has two USB ports, which, if you have a USB keyboard and mouse, leaves you with no keyboard or no extra USB ports, except on the front. That's an extreme hindrance. Even in the early to mid 2000s, that would have been an extreme hindrance. If you ran out of front USB ports, if you're using a webcam or a flash drive or anything else, which they probably wouldn't have been in the mid 2000s, but just for example, you would have had no extra USB ports lest you had expanded into the PCI expansion bracket. The amount of RAM in this system as well for the time period would have been very small and would have been probably consumed very quickly by any applications they may have used on the system, and the 20 or 40 gig hard drive would have been okay for the time, but would have quickly become outdated as, again, time went on. So, let's get into the system. The system runs Windows XP. Optionally, this computer has a base, which you can see sitting on that computer over there. The computer sits on the base with a screwing into the bottom of it, though I do not have that on right now for demonstration purposes. As you can see, this computer is a typical Dell clamshell style computer. I should have said that at the beginning, but that's alright. With some Dell computers, when you first plug the power in, the computer will power up shortly and then power back off. This computer has that feature, but it only powers on for a very short period of time. So you could say that that's a good thing. So we're going to power the system on now. You can most assuredly hear the hard drive. It's not horribly loud, but it would be kind of annoying if you sat in front of the computer 24/7. Would also help to plug in the monitor. This computer has post lights on the back, as you can see. It's expecting a secondary hard disk for whatever reason, but is not finding one. As you can see, this computer will boot into Windows XP. I'll be back after that finishes. So here we are in the Windows XP install, as you can see. This is the original Dell install, and I'll show you that it even has the original Dell logo. Here you can see the Dell logo. Dell Computer Corporation, Dell Dimension DIM 4300S, the Pentium 4 1.6 GHz, 256 megs of RAM, and the Dell logo. So there's that. This computer, as it is, runs okay, especially with all the programs on it. There's nothing particularly insane on here. There's Microsoft anti-spyware, which I didn't even know was a thing. If Microsoft Works. There's no Microsoft Word, though, it would appear. The choice being right, I have no clue. Oh, there we are, Microsoft Word. So I would think this is Word 03, maybe? Let me see. Oh, it's Microsoft Word 2002, excuse me. This looks like it came stock with the system, actually. It says the product is licensed to preferred customer by Dell Computer Corporation. So clearly they sold this that piece of software with the computer. They may not have sold the entire Office suite, which it doesn't appear they have, because I don't see any Excel or anything else, and there's no folder that says Microsoft Office. So there's that. There's not a ton on this. Hot sync shortcut name, I don't know what that is. There's something about worldwinner.com. I'm not really sure what that is. It's probably a piece of junk, really. And besides that, there's nothing else on this computer. So there's nothing really that much else on this computer that I can really demonstrate. But I can talk about, again, how this computer would have aged rather ungracefully. Really, at the time that the Pentium 4 was released, it was already outdated. Its performance, I think, as we know, over, in fact, NetBurst's architecture, microarchitecture, in and of itself, compared to the Pentium 3's architecture, was vastly worse than Pentium 4 NetBurst microarchitecture ever was. It was shown by various people, I think Intel included, that the NetBurst architecture, clock for clock, was worse than the Pentium 3. The fact that this computer, essentially with all Pentium 4 computers for that matter, the fact that it was using a Pentium 4 really handicaps this thing prematurely, especially considering the fact that it's not hyper-threaded. Had this computer been hyper-threaded, it may have gotten a little bit more life out of it, but I really doubt it. When this computer started to get programs loaded on it, and toolbars and other things on it, the performance, especially with the limited amount of RAM, would have slowed very, very quickly. And especially as startup items accumulated, the startup time would have increased a lot. And with Windows XP, it doesn't really load all the files before it gets to the desktop, so you could really be waiting for a lot longer time than it may let on. So that's about that. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this little insight type thing, I suppose you could call it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and goodbye.